Here, I'm going to hit real. Oh yes, welcome into the Press Row Show. Just kidding. Welcome into Snow The Goalie, the only Flyers podcast, the People's podcast, the Players podcast, the Prognosticators podcast, the Pedialyte podcast, the only Flyers podcast. We are on location on a very exciting day in the life of our own Chris Therien, Bundy, at the new PA Recovery Center.
Pennsylvania Recovery Center, Center City, and you know what, guys? It's a great day. It was packed here earlier. We started at 11. And I know that I just felt like this would be a great day to kind of join and give people a glimpse of what I do in the day and combine with what I do in most of my life, and that's hockey at some capacity. So it's great to be here. You can see the great mural behind us.
This is great.
And I really, really appreciate you and our fans being here with me today. It's a special day and really inspired to be here. I'm really thankful you guys are here too.
Well, thanks for having us, Bundy. It was great. Been here about an hour. You know, got some lunch, met some people, waited for Russ to arrive, waited longer for Russ to arrive.
I spent an hour and a half on the road.
Waited for Russ to not have all the equipment necessary.
That's right.
That the fine folks here at the Pennsylvania Recovery Center had to provide us with.
Well, they gave us
some. They
spared us. No, you know what? We're gonna call intern Andrew out on this one. I don't know where our splitter is, but it ain't here. It's not with the rest of the equipment. So I think the intern. I paid the intern. Let the record show. Paid the intern.
Yes.
Okay. And we have equipment missing. Do I deduct that? Do I retroactively go back and deduct that from his pay? It was not an unpaid internship. For the record, we did it.
Yeah.
We took care of the young man, and now we have a wire missing and our splitter's missing, and I fully expect him to either jump in the comments here or respond after the fact.
And I'm thinking maybe he took it hostage, waiting for the check, since it took so long for him to get the check from me.
Not the case. He
Oh, you mean he got paid before us?
Pal, you know, I've been asking Bundy now for 2 months now for a bank account. I did the taxes, which is good. The taxes are done. I have everything allocated, and we're good to go. And you also got your,
I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. I'm only saying it.
You made it sound like this is a big grift, which is not good. You know,
not.
in podcast communities, there was a really bad grift that happened with. I don't want to name the company because it could actually be bad, and there's a lot of legal stuff going on. But there was a guy who kept telling the hosts that he was supposed to pay that he was going to pay them, and apparently, allegedly, embezzled like 6 to 7 figures.
Really?
Yeah, and there were a lot of top names, I'll tell you off air, of some of the comedians that were also involved with them, but really, really bad stuff. Awful.
Well, that doesn't happen here.
It doesn't happen here,
No.
so anyway, before I get labeled with that. But anyway, it's a really exciting day, and we're going to talk about the Flyers here. But Bundy, as we talk a lot about on the show, Ant and I both have jobs where we do stuff of varying importance, but really you're the one who's doing things that impact people's lives and get them back on the right track. So before we get into the hockey talk here, give people an idea. This is a great location, easy to access, beautiful facility, but give people an idea of what exactly people can access here at Pennsylvania Recovery Center.
So what we are is essentially, at the end of the day, we're an aftercare facility. When you go away to rehab, there's a lot of people and there'd be some people that say, oh, maybe AA is just the best thing, and I understand that is true, and I've been a member of AA for years because it's like being on a team. Mm-hmm. But sometimes people can't get there right at the start. They need to get some more help. They need to get learn more about the disease, more about themselves. So when they go away, this is the spot we want them to come. And I don't want to say like we've targeted any kind of person. Everyone's welcome. Nobody has to feel like they're left out. But we support people that have struggled with drugs and alcohol and mental health. And that, especially mental health, has become so prevalent really since the pandemic, and people deal with it, whatever there is. I mean, there's nobody or no family or person that hasn't struggled at some point in their life over something. And so we have a great team here. This is a much, much nicer building than the one we came from. We're just at the entranceway to Chinatown, essentially. We're on Winter Street, which is close to it's 10th and Vine, essentially.
Yep.
And you'll see the walkway to Chinatown. It's a great location. We have an amazing sober living house about 3 blocks down, or a few blocks down at 2nd and Arch. But this is a place where you can come. A lot of love, people here helping each other out, supporting each other. And I tell, we have a multitude of people who have come. You come from any walk of life. We have police, we've had judges, we've had lawyers, doctors, we've had restaurant work. It doesn't matter. Any walk of life, and you find that drugs and alcohol does not. It doesn't judge you. It doesn't pick or choose.
Doesn't discriminate.
Does not discriminate, Anthony. Absolutely right. So I'm proud of the work we've done. I obviously have shared my history many years ago, but I haven't forgot it. And I know people do struggle, and I want them to have a place and a person that they could trust in that struggle. And that's why I did it. Had to be in Philly, guys. This is Center City. I mean, it's a great spot and pretty exciting time.
That's great stuff.
No, it really is.
A lot of comments on the mural. We're gonna have to find out who did the mural.
You know who did the mural?
I can ask my partner Brent Norton. I will tell you one thing. Flyers sent over a ton of stuff too, guys. We had away some jerseys, a Cam York jersey stick, Sanheim stick. Brad Marsh was here. We've had a lot of great raffles. Like they're all giveaways. It's not you don't pay for anything here, but it's been a really great day and tons of food, which me and Anthony scoured down. Nobody's been shy with that.
Good on you. Good on you.
I love your hair back, pal.
Me?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus
Who else would it
Christ, the
be?
last thing. Holy fuck! I almost left the show.
And the permanent glasses now? Look, I'm like really stepping up in the world, right?
Yeah, those are new frames.
I've always worn cheaters. Like I had readers. That's what I've always worn, like for the last 5 years, because reading was an issue. I could see it at distance. I don't need glasses to drive or anything like that. But sitting in front of a computer screen all day, or looking at my phone or reading anything, I always used the readers. But I was always reluctant to get, my own prescription, just because I was like, oh, I'll get them eventually. I turned 50 and I said, you know what, it's time. It's time. So I got them. Got the real.
Did you
real
get to
thing.
like Russ isn't there, but I'm not gonna. I got to like 44, 45, and it was like, oh shit, I can't see anymore.
Yeah.
Like, so I can read anything. I can read the little paper over there on the far wall,
Yeah.
but I can't see this like right in front of me.
You're
So that's
just
the
like me.
classic.
I'm
Yeah.
the same way. I can see at a distance. I can't see up close. So I decided to say, tired of the little $3 CVS readers that I would buy, and let's go and get the real thing. So that's what I did.
I will tell you, my eyes were prior to surgery probably worse than yours are at your age now.
Really?
I used when I
You got LASIK?
I have no. I had the Vizient ICL. They actually they implant a lens in your eye. My prescription was -7.5.
Wow.
For contacts and glasses, so I could read this close, but then anything after that just was a blur. It was a total color blur. I'll plug Kremer Eye Center because they did a great job.
Great.
But, yeah,
I did not know that.
I
Russ.
did that a year ago. Yeah.
Before we do get into talk, I know I said
Yeah.
the last day I was clean shaven. So this is where I'm at right now with my playoff.
That's hot.
I have not
Look at
touched
you.
it in
Yeah, it's good.
several times, so I think it's gonna be coming off in 3 days. So
Aw, why?
We'll be at the playoffs.
Yeah, keep it rocking. You got it. Listen. I want you to grow the Ryan Ellis
I'm not
beard for
growing
Aunt's
that.
wedding.
It's like 95 degrees.
You
up
need the
there.
Ryan Ellis beard for Aunt's wedding. That's what we need.
It won't grow that long by then.
You don't
It's
know
only
that.
September.
You know what I
Wedding.
heard?
Aunt doesn't know much about growing.
Anthony
so-
developed such a relationship with Ryan Ellis that Ryan Ellis will be at the wedding. What's going on in the hockey world, Ant? Is anything going on? Where's Mishkov?
Should I have sent an invite to Torts
For here
for the wedding?
or for the wedding?
Should I have done that?
It is kind of customary that if you can't go, you send a gift. What kind of gift do you think he would have sent you? I'm not answering your RSVP.
That's right.
Something to do with a dog.
Yeah. Anyway,
There's a bone.
You guys enjoying the final?
No, at all.
It would have
No.
been better if it was Dallas.
Yes.
That's what I was so disappointed that Edmonton won for that reason. Not because I don't want to see Edmonton win, just because I think that the matchup would have been better, Florida Dallas. And I thought that first of all, Bobrovsky was fantastic in Game 1, like fantastic.
Yeah.
He won Game 1.
Edmonton was great.
Edmonton was really good.
Yeah.
And he was fantastic. And then Game 2, Florida was fantastic.
It was like a complete switch, except Florida got the score in both of them.
Yeah.
It should be 1-1.
Yeah.
But Skinner, like that goal the other night, even the first one Edmonton scored in Game 1, or Florida scored in Game 1, you got to stop that.
Yeah.
It's a knuckler. You got to cover the far side of the net. I mean, and I think that's what's going to come down. I mean, I don't know what Edmonton's going to do, but they were doing this beginning of the year, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's amazing that they were able to right the ship at all and really pour it. I mean, they have a lot of talent. I mean, you got the best player, best two out of three players in the world. But defense, when you lock it down,
defense and goaltending wins the Stanley Cup.
That's exactly right. Every year, nothing changes. Big, strong, heavy teams win cups.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it like that, but it is. As big guys make a difference. Look at Bennett, Kachuk. Those guys just get all over the ice and get in your way. Hagee.
How good has Bennett been?
Really good. We picked him too.
We did. He's on our team.
How are we doing? Have we rebounded?
We have rebounded.
It's not great.
We have rebounded, and we are in, I believe, 7th place currently out of 19 teams.
If McDavid wakes up,
we were in 16th for a long time. We were at the bottom, but a lot of our guys started to get hot, and then I'm pretty sure we're in 7th. At the last update.
Dallas really fucked us. Pardon the language here at my new
It's
time.
Get it up. Where is it?
Here's a special one. The Bundy bomb goes down 10 minutes into the show.
So this place is christened officially.
Yeah.
Dallas, like me and Anthony were talking, like they had a 2-1 lead, right? And they were trying to figure out exactly, like the articles where Frank Saravalli was talking about, like, what does Edmonton do now with Darnell Nurse? And then Darnell Nurse turned into Chris Pronger for the rest of that series. Now he can't play. I think he's hurt. But Dallas, like, they had a 2-0 lead at the end of the game that would have given them the 3-1 lead. And after that first period, they're like, all right, we're done. This series is over. And then Edmonton turned it on, and Dallas just went away. And I thought to myself the whole time, what a brutal coaching job DeBoer has done. Like, he couldn't even get a pulse back to get the thing turned back to go Dallas's momentum. They never had momentum again after that first period in Game 4.
Yeah, it's exactly right.
Just as an update here,
we
remain in 7th place, 158 points. We do have a very realistic chance of jumping into the top 4, but it's a bit of a.
Yeah, we're not going to win.
It's
the team that's in first is.
If you ain't first, you're last.
So that team, it's straight shooters, and they are in first with 241, and they're running away with it.
Were they the guys that were wasted at the bar with the Jackets?
They were, and they drafted Evan Bouchard, who's had an incredible playoff.
Oh my God!
For Edmonton,
he's racked up 68 of their 241 points.
He's the top scoring person in this fantasy thing that we did. Number one.
Because it was a boost for defensemen, right? For points scored by defensemen.
There are boosts for that, and he's been so good for Edmonton in the playoffs. So that's why they're in first. But yes, we can finish top 4. We can finish in 4, which would not be bad. Considering, look, and I hated having the first overall pick because, we got McDavid, great. But then you had to wait. We didn't pick again till 38.
Yeah.
Right? So there was 36 other players for the playoffs that went on between.
That's pretty brutal.
So it's tough, right? So to finish, if we get top 4, I'm happy with it. Just because of where we picked.
I actually do, like, to be honest with you, I know we're 7th, but I thought the picking we did that night based on the teams, I thought it was pretty well structured. I mean, Dallas really screwed us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
because if it was Dallas and Florida there now, that would be interesting. Because we had Bennett.
I'll tell you, it would have. You know what actually would have helped us a little bit more, even more so, is if the Rangers reached the final because we had the Rangers goaltending.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that would have given us 4, 5, 6 more games of goalie scoring, which we lost out on by them being eliminated.
Well, it's it is what it is.
Anyway,
you have to turn the page. And speaking of turning the page, that brings us to our new sponsor. Just kidding. We're not doing that today. I think that we have to talk about the fact that the Philadelphia Flyers are looking to turn the page. And last week, Keith Jones and Dan Hilferty met with the media. Ant was in attendance. Bundy and I were not. Was there anything of note? I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but was there anything of note that you walked away from that press conference saying, hey, here's an idea of where they're going?
The one thing that I thought was of note, and I don't even want to say it's surprising because it's not, but it was Jonesy actually saying, when to talk about, what do you want to say to us, a year from now when you're having this same press conference again? And he didn't really answer that question, but what he did say was, we have a lot of contracts that, the dead money that are on our cap that we have to get out from under, and that the plan will be to get out from under that after this season. Mm-hmm. Really, I mean that's because when you think about it, they're paying dead money on Kevin Hayes. They're paying dead money on Tony DeAngelo. They got to put Ryan Ellis on LTIR, but he's got to be on their cap for day 1 of the season.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name?
Cam Atkinson?
No, not yet. Not him. We'll get to him in a minute. Cal Peterson.
There's Peterson, and there's also what's his nuts?
Who's got $5 million?
Who's down in the A that they don't want? Johansson.
Well, Ryan Johansson's money, right? One, Cal Peterson's money. So there's all that money that's just dead money that's got to count against their cap. So they really can't do anything this off season that would bring in more money. Can they do a hockey trade where you're doing a 1-for-1 kind of thing, and you know both teams look at it as an equal trade, and you're hoping that maybe you get the better side of 50% of that deal? In other words, like it's an even deal, but we got a little bit better out of it. Okay, so that's what you kind of hope for with those. I think you'll see one or two of those maybe, and I think that they'll get some fringy kind of free agents to kind of fill out the roster, but you're not going to see them do anything big, and it's because they got to get out from under that money. And so that's the thing. Now, you mentioned Cam Atkinson.
I did,
and this is an interesting thing because I'm going to be curious to see what they do. First of all, I don't think anybody wants that contract, so I don't think you're going to trade it. Nor do I think they want to do a retention. Even if somebody did say, oh yeah, we'll take it, you eat 50%. I don't think they want to do that because you only get 2 retention slots per year, right? So you kind of hamstring yourself a little bit with that. I really think that ultimately what's going to happen is I think they're going to buy him out.
Really?
I do. And although that puts a little bit of dead money into next year, with the cap going up, it already went up this year, it's going to probably go up again next year. And you're spreading out his contract over 2 years, right? I kind of think that that's a possibility that you can live with. And so I think ultimately that will be the direction they go. Now, the interesting thing is I don't think that they're going to say anything about it. I think that they're going to keep hush-hush. I don't even think they're going to tell Cam about it until it's time, because you don't want Cam Atkinson to pull a Ryan Johansson, right? And all of a sudden, I'm injured, can't play, and then that money has to be on your cap all year. You maybe have to stick it on LTIR or whatever, and you don't want to waive the guy and send him to the minors. That doesn't do right by him. I mean, he's been a good soldier since he's been here. He's not a bad guy. He's a very good guy. So you want to do right by him too. So I think it's just a delicate balance on how to approach it. But I think that's the next step for the Flyers. That's the next move that you're going to see with a player who was on their team last year and where he ends up.
Is that what happened with Johansson, though? Did he say, we got traded? He's like, I'm hurt.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Well, he said that there was an injury.
There was an injury.
But in fairness, if that were true, then the trade shouldn't have been executed. You're not supposed to trade injured players.
Well, no, you can.
No, I'm saying, but you're not supposed to.
No, but you can. If the team's on board with it.
But the team didn't fully disclose when he was first acquired. We acquired an injured player.
I think that they kind of knew where they were at with him. I don't think that they thought it would drag on as long as it has. Maybe that's where you're at, and it's like, well, crap, we got to deal with this contract again for another year. Like we thought he would at least be playable, and then if we needed to waive him to the minors, we could. But now it's like, if the injury is lingering and he can't even play hockey, now you got to put on LTIR, which is a lot less desirable of a situation, especially since you have Ellis that's going to have to end up on LTIR at some point. So
let me ask you this question though. So Atkinson, right? One of the things that we knew about him coming into town was that he was a well-respected vet, was viewed as a very positive guy in his prior locker room, came here, was also viewed as a positive guy in the locker room. Why buy him out? Like, Did
you watch him play?
Well, I know that he's not a good player. I'm just asking, like, why buy him out?
I don't know.
If you, like, okay.
This year, I know what you're saying, because you're saying this year doesn't look like it's any kind of a make or break year for them. Anyway, it doesn't look like there's a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
So just play him out. I mean, I'm reading some of the comments. Someone's like, just let him play it out then. Why buy him out, Anthony?
I think that,
before you answer that too, like, if there were a concern that he still has like a lingering injury or something, right? Like you could just move him to IR. Like there's no negative to having him around the team from that perspective. But go ahead.
Well, I'll give you the one thing that obviously that happens changes everything for this organization. If Mishkov can come over and play, they play the same position.
Okay.
So how are you keeping him on the roster? Like, how are you playing him? Like, where is he fit?
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't get him in this year. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, you're going to eat money having to buy him out anyway.
Yeah, but it doesn't. So yes, but you're only talking about half of the money counting against your cap, so it gives you the wiggle room to do other things with your roster.
But this is the last year of the deal, or is there?
I'm pretty sure. I think this is the last.
I would love to access cap friendly, and I'm sure I could, but I have to get used to not doing it because the Capitals bought cap friendly, which is not fun or cool or good for any hockey fan anyway. I don't think there's much left. I guess my concern is, if you're going
pretty good.
If you're going to elongate how much time you have to pay this guy, you're actively hindering yourself. Like, if, say Mishkov comes over this year. Just say it happens at some point. That means that the window, or when you expect to start turning the page on this, has now moved up a little bit. And in that case, why are you then going to tank part of your cap situation for another year or two, just for the sake of getting out from under it? Now, look at you. You're not even going to cap friendly. You've already sworn off of it.
Spot track.
No, I know what spot track is, but I'm just saying you didn't go to cap friendly. I'm a little bit surprised. Go ahead. So what do you see?
You can do that, right?
What do you see, senor?
Cam Atkinson.
5.825. I just saw.
He just lost. Now I have to go.
5.825 is, I believe, what I just saw.
Yeah, no, that's correct, and he is a free agent after this year.
So if he's a free agent after this year, I just say, eat it. Who cares? Play him on the fourth line. Play him wherever you need to. I genuinely don't care, because you don't need, beyond this year, to eat the money on a contract when you think that, hey, the cap's going to keep going up. Great. Doesn't mean you have to burn it with dead cap. Play it out this year. It's not a year that you're looking to contend for a Stanley Cup, and then go into next year with that money totally gone.
But it might impact how you're able to build your roster. Like, if you're able to bring in...
Who cares about this year?
If you have players that you want to play ahead of him, and you need to get them onto your roster, what are you going to do with that salary?
Move another guy?
So you're going to move someone else just to keep a player on the roster who you have no interest in keeping beyond at all. You don't even have interest in keeping him this season. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know if you've noticed. This isn't a good team. Like, there aren't that many guys that I would keep on this team actively. So, yeah.
I don't know. My point
there aren't that many untouchables. Like, just genuinely. Like, there are a lot of bottom six guys on the team. So, like, okay.
Yeah, just looking at the top, really, I mean, it is interesting because, again, you see Coots at the top. I mean, that's another one. Like, I know it's gone quiet recently.
Yeah.
But, again, if you look to the end of the year, I mean, it was bad.
Yeah.
It was rough.
But I think they're hoping that because of how well he played the first half of the year, that actually now that he's had a year under his belt, getting back after not playing for 2 years, have another summer of workouts, and then get back on the ice, and then see. And if you reach the deadline next year and he's still fading on you in the second half of the season, well, that maybe changes the calculus on Sean Couturier moving forward.
It was an odd one for me all year with that, because I knew what he was doing for the team.
Yeah.
And he gave it all he had. And I do believe he was responsible for the team's success when they were doing well.
Yes.
And in reverse, I hated the fact that it appeared to be his fault when everything went south. Because I don't think he ever deserved that. And that was kind of a tough one, even for me as a former player, to see that happen. But he at the same time, he does need to be better.
Sure.
But again, I worry about the pacing, Anthony, only because a guy like that can't pace himself. He's got to go all in, in the way he plays the game. It's interesting, but he's an important piece. You have a big center like that, and he definitely ran out of fuel, no doubt.
Yeah.
Mick Bodine checks in and says it would be just over $1.7 million in dead cap next year.
Yeah.
If he did it.
Yeah.
I just say eat it this year. I don't care. The real problem, I mean, in fairness, the thing that is the problem is between him at, what is it, just under 5.9?
It's 5.8, yeah.
At 5.8, and then Johansson is
at
around,
4.
is 4. Like, they have about 10 minutes. There you have a Mitch Marner that's not playing.
Right. That's why you got to get out from under it.
Or maybe the reason that you want to get rid of Cam Atkinson and buy him out is because you want to give Travis Konecny $12 million a year. I don't know. I wouldn't.
That can't.
It ain't going to be 12.
It's not 12.
It's not going to be 12.
It shouldn't be more than 9, but here we are.
We talked about this, though, and I think it was, again, nothing against Travis Konecny. It's a situational signing that you have because he's a popular player. He's developed. He's come on really big the last couple of years, especially last. But if you look at his numbers, right, guys, like if you really look at his numbers compared to the guys that are top-end players, he doesn't compare to them. No. He does not compare to them. He's a good second-line player on an excellent team. I could see him. He's a contributor. But when you start getting into the $10 million range, for me, that's just too much.
I agree. He and I went back and forth on this with the last 2 episodes. And we actually did it. You would be surprised, Bundy, how respectful we were to one another the last 2 episdes arguing about this.
I knew you had it in you guys.
I have to be respectful to him. He's officiating my wedding.
That's exactly right.
After September 21st, I don't have to be as respectful.
That's exactly right. But in the meantime, hey, pal. We all like Travis Konecny, all think he's a good dude, all think he's a good player, but I will continue to come back to the point that, yes, the cap is going to go up every year, but it doesn't mean you need to burn the new cap money that you have.
See, this one here, he says 6 to 7 million.
Not
Work
JD.
with me, not JD. I'm sorry.
That
doesn't.
won't happen.
Here's the problem. You just paid Tippett that.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm saying is if you got to do comparables, because the agent, I know the agent, he's my agent, Pat Morris, who's Kravis. He's a great friend of mine.
Okay.
But what he does is, and I know from my history, he'll use comparables. That would be amazing. But you just paid Owen Tippett that, and he's got better numbers than Owen Tippett and more tenure here in Philly. So those are the little things. But again, what's your window between the 6.2 or 6.5 you gave Tippett and the high end that you could pay Konecny? That's the question.
Yeah.
So if he's 6.5, do you say to yourself, well, is Travis worth $1.5 million more? I'm okay with 8. I'm okay with 8.
8's fine.
Yeah.
You could even talk me. You could talk me into 9, and I would say 9 on a deal that only goes 5 years is great. But
this is where,
as Ant comes back to, you're only going to get a lower hit if you do a longer contract, which I will once again point back to. He is not that much bigger than me. He is more muscular than I am. He's certainly in better shape than I am. But I can only imagine that somebody on my size frame playing the way that he plays and playing in this league where everybody's bigger, faster, stronger. I don't like what a year 6 or 7 of that contract looks like.
Russ,
I don't like a few years.
Finally, we agree. He's not big enough for me at that age to give a 7 or 8 year deal to. Absolutely not.
And that's fine. So if you go shorter term, then you have to give him more money.
Or you can just trade him. You don't have to give. You live in this weird binary thing where it's like, we have to give him more
and
money.
I'll tell you why, Russ, because you are in a constant state of rebuilding and rebuilding and rebuilding. If you are trading your best, but you're not furthering the rebuild by trading Travis Konecny. What do you think you're getting for Travis Konecny?
But he's not Pasternak. He's not your best player Pasternak. He's your best player Travis Konecny. And that's the part, you guys are disagreeing, and Anthony, you and me are butters.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that he's not that star. He's not Panarin. He's not Pasta.
And he doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Because with the cap going up, wait till you see some of the contracts that are going to be coming out over the next couple of years. And then when you think about it and look at it and say, well, if we're 5 years from now and he's making $10 million, he's making what a second line winger is making in 5 years. That's what they're making. That's what they're. It might look like a lot now, but in 5 years from now, that's the going rate, and that's okay.
Counterpoint: the Flyers have given out contracts to 2 defensemen in the last year and a half, and in both cases, you made a similar argument. Rasmus Ristolainen's contract, based on him being projected in their minds at the time of being maybe a top pair defenseman. You're going to look at that contract. Oh, I'm just saying the prior regime certainly thought of him
but when I defended it, I said it's
as
with
a second pair guy,
defenseman.
and you said, well, look in 5 or 6 years and look at what a second pair defenseman is going to get. I will once again argue there were a lot of things that had to go right for him to actually be a second pair defenseman. I still don't think he is. Travis Sanheim, they gave a significant contract to last year or the year before, prior regime again, before he ever got to play for John Tortorella. And it was once again like, hey, think about what a top pair defenseman, which is what you would hope he'd be, or a second pair defenseman is going to get per year in 5 or 6 years. They have to develop into those guys. But either way, if they don't, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the contract looked like relative to what you project it to be. It matters if the guy steps up and becomes something. I don't know if you can sell me on the idea that Travis Konecny can go to another level. You could sell me at the time that Travis Sanheim could maybe have a higher
but
ceiling.
Here's the thing, and this is why I'm going to shoot down your example, because you're going to sit there and make those arguments, and they're fair arguments, absolutely fair arguments, because those players needed to develop into what they paid them for, and neither have, right? So in both instances, guys are being overpaid because Ristolainen did not become a second pair defenseman, and Sanheim really isn't a top pair guy. He's more of a second pair guy. So in those instances, you make a much stronger argument. But Travis Konecny is already the equivalent of a second pair right wing. And this is what I'm trying to say to you.
A second line
right wing. And this is what I'm trying to say, that in 5 years, he's still a second line right wing, and that's what they're going to be paid. He doesn't have to grow into that position or grow into that spot in the roster. He's already there.
What did Pettersson get? If you can find it. Here's just a scenario. I know what you're going to say. Every one of our followers is going to say the same thing. Would you trade Travis Konecny for Pettersson?
Elias?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a New York minute.
Yeah.
100%. What did he get? And I can tell you what Konechny's not going to get. based on that salary.
I don't know why we're getting
Ant's computer is having a rough time.
only here. I've never had this before.
That's because we're very, very sophisticated here, and we'll have your. We have somebody going through your data right now.
He's making.
I don't know what just happened.
His contract was $92.8 million.
For how many
when he
years?
Signed it. I'm looking for it now.
8.
It was a long one.
I don't know. I really don't know.
Here we go. Let's see. He had a $9.25 cap hit. All right, he has an $11.6 million cap hit.
Yeah.
The contract goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
8 years, okay.
8 years, $11.6 million per. No, I'm not paying Travis Konecny $10 million based on that.
And I'm sorry, what I'm doing, I'm just giving you comparables to see where that's at, because that's a top of the food chain signing for Pettersson. Because if you hit the market, Vancouver had to overpay him to stay in Canada. You're paying crazier taxes up there and all that stuff. So that's what I'm looking at now. Konechny's deal at 10 would be the same as 11.5 for Pettersson in Vancouver. So there's a factor too. When you go into state, if you go get state taxes, you got to factor all this stuff in now that you didn't look at before.
Yeah.
You know what, guys? It's between 8 and 9, and I think that's probably where they're going to have to.
But if I think that he would come in at 9 if they gave him max term.
And so
if they go 7, 8 years, I think he'll come down under 10.
And so here's another side of this too, because I have talked to Pat, and he said, well, if they don't want to pay him what we think they're worth, there's a ton of teams, he said, that have a ton of money coming up.
Yeah.
A ton. And so, that's been discussed on the other end too. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No. Things would have to go really south, and I don't think they will. But that is also there. That also lies in weight.
Here's what I look at. I want to move off of this because I feel like we're going to probably have the same debate most of the offseason, unless he's either re-signed.
Well, I think he'll get signed right around July 1.
I want to talk about a couple draft picks, which actually I don't.
Give me 1 sec.
Yeah.
The thing that I run into here is, as you're doing this rebuild, you only have a few guys that are valuable assets that you could go out and actually get a bidding war started among other teams. And I think Konechny is one of the guys that you could. And if the idea is to actively rebuild this thing in the right way, whether it's picks or it's assets or it's young players, whatever it ends up being, I think he's one of the only truly valuable guys that you have that you could start a bidding war for around the draft. So if it were me, as somebody who's representing the Flyers, I would say, let's at least gauge the market. We know what we're comfortable paying him. We know what he wants. We know where we think it could land.
I'm sure that they'll do that. I'm sure that they always find that what the value of every one of their players is on the market, even if it's a guy you would not trade.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure that they ask just for the sake of asking. Like, hey, if we had to trade this guy, what would we give you?
I have to show this. I'm going to try to show this to the camera.
What is this?
Intern Andrew just sent me a picture. Look what he has. The splitter and the wire.
Oh.
He has them.
I told you he was holding them hostage until he got paid. That's what it was.
And he did.
See that?
So I coach my son, right?
Yes.
AAA hockey, by the way. He quit in 2020. Now he's got like close to 20 Division I football offers because I want him to go play football. Got Villanova last week, which we were just so happy. I mean, just unbelievable. Like
it's been a big couple of weeks for the Therien family.
We'll get into that after.
Yeah.
But I just want to say, as I see these names, you know what? All the years I was doing travel hockey, 5 years I coached. I'd go to Toronto, we'd go up and down and all over, and I'd see these kids, different kids, right? At like 13, 14. There's 2 kids out of every kid I saw. I mean, I'd watch all the other games waiting that I thought were worthy, that say, oh, that kid's going to be a player someday. The kid that got to drop it a little bit, Cole Eiserman, was a year older than Chris. Chris would be, he's still 17, my son. He ended up, I watched this kid and I'm like, wow, he's a player. And his back checking and the work that he put in at that age was impressive. Now, I don't know what happened. I mentioned that to Jonesy. I texted Jonesy last week. I said, you know what? I coached and I remember this kid. Now, apparently he is a kid that now, and I saw a real complete game then, and I guess that's changed. He's become more of a goal scorer where he doesn't have a complete game anymore. The other kid that I thought was an absolute stud, he was Chris's age in that group, was Higgins from Long Island. He'll be the first pick next year in the draft. He's exactly like Jack Hughes. But those 2 kids were the only ones I noticed that said they're going to be good, high first-round draft picks, I think.
Yeah. We'll get to that in a minute.
And that Eiserman, but I always said I just loved his work ethic. I don't know anything about him now. I don't watch it. I know Hughes, not Hughes, excuse me, Higgins. They tried to get him to go to London from Dale Hunter because Bolton's kid, Eric Bolton, was his coach.
Okay.
and it didn't happen. So I think he's going to college for a year, and he's going to Boston College, and he's probably going to break in the NHL.
Yeah. Do you want to do the super chat first?
Yeah, let's go to the super
into
chat. By the way, a lot of people bringing up DeBrincat, who I know. John's Flipper checks in with the super chat. Thank you, John. Very kind of you. Buy out Atkinson, trade TK and Risto, move Lawton at the deadline, let the rebuild begin, if they are truly rebuilding.
Okay, so I'm good with all of that except trading Konecny. I really don't think if you do all of that, you're setting this team back 8-9 years. You really are. If you do all of that, because you're not going to be. When are you going to be good? It's a constant state of. This is what we've come to all the time, and I feel like a broken record when I say it. It's a constant state of, well, if we don't win now, then blow it up and start over. Blow it up and start over, and you have nothing to start with. Like, you got to have guys that are there to get you through, even if let's just say this, even if Travis Konecny is not part of a team, a Flyers team that is playing for a Stanley Cup, okay? In order to get there, you need players to get you to that point. There are steps along the way, okay? Does Travis Konecny help you become a playoff team?
Yeah, but
so let's just start there. That's number one. Once you become just a playoff team, you don't want to just go in and just say, okay, we made the playoffs, we made our appearance, and we're going to get out after 4 games. It's not just that. Can Travis Konecny be a player for you within the next 5 years who helps you win in the playoffs? Even if you don't win a Stanley Cup, can he be a player that helps you win in the playoffs?
Potentially.
Yes. Okay, so he can.
Potentially.
All right. My point being that if you the sooner you get away from that contract and away from that player, you're that much longer away from getting to that point. So it's not that you sit there and say, well, they have a chance to win in the next 5 years. Now all of a sudden you start dumping all of your players. It's like, okay, well, they're going to be bad for 5 years, and then after that they'll try and get closer. It's what I keep saying that happened with Colorado.
8 or 9 years, though, like, I am a master of hyperbole. That is hyperbole, because it
happened to Colorado. It's happened with Edmonton.
The only way that you set the team back 8 or 9 years because of Travis Konecny not being here is because Travis Konecny is physically unable to play hockey.
You're not all right. It's what I don't mean by you're setting the team back 9 years. Let me rephrase it then.
Yeah, clarify.
You're not competing for a Stanley Cup for 8 or 9 years.
I don't agree with that.
It's exactly what Colorado did when they tore it down to the studs. It's exactly what Edmonton did when they tore it down to the studs. And they've had the 2 best players in hockey for how long? And this is the first time that they've reached the Stanley Cup final. McDavid was a rookie in 15. It's 24.
You got to build around your top end player. The thing is that I said during the year, and it is a fact, if you go back and look at a lot of those teams that have won, every team that's won for like 20 years now has had the number 1, 2, or 3 pick on their team. From whatever draft.
Which this team doesn't have.
The Flyers do not have that. They don't have that high. Now, maybe it would have been Nolan Patrick, right? If that kid would have turned into a stud, well, say we got number 1, 2, or 3. But if every single team that has a player, and if you look at the team right now, same with Florida. They got Ekblad, he went first overall.
Yep.
They got a bunch of other high first-round picks, too, even from Calgary.
Barkov.
The Calgary Panthers.
The counter to that, Bundy, and I think you are correct, and I think that's why there are people like me who say, at least do it 1 year where you're in position to get a top 3 pick. The counter, I guess, if Chuck hadn't been delusional and done what he did, you're probably in contention for the Bedard spot, but you ended up with Mishkov, who, had he not been a Russian player, probably would have been the number 2 pick. So if you want to go with that theory, like that you need to have a top 3 guy, I think that as long as he becomes the guy that you expect him to be, Mishkov, in a de facto way, kind of is that guy.
And this is what I said during the year of why they needed to get rid of Giroux in 16.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that time, because what you did was he kept your team up. He was good enough to get you to the playoffs. But I do feel like he hindered development of everyone else. They weren't allowed to be better than Claude. Look at Ottawa.
Is that what Konecny is now?
No, but that's what I'm saying. I was just about to say.
Is he the guy who only allows you to get
and it's a fair question,
to a certain level?
It's a fair question, but they don't have the replacements for him yet. You have one guy coming in Mishkov, whether it's this year, next year, the year after, whenever. Yeah. Okay, so you have one right wing that's coming, but who's the other one?
I don't know if you.
This is not tanking. We're not.
Yeah.
Someone
Yeah.
says tank. I was talking about Giroux. Sometimes you got to go back to take 2 steps forward.
And-
he had served his purpose here.
Yep.
The only one that you were doing service for at the end of that was Giroux himself. Like it's like putting that girl on the basketball team that's like 44 years old instead of the 21-year-old. I don't know her name.
Instead of
Like
Caitlin
Tar-
Clark?
Diana
Taurasi.
Taurasi.
Right.
Taurasi, yeah.
What the fuck is she on the Olympic team for the 6th time for? Why?
Yeah.
Because it's for her. It's not for anybody else but her, right? And so what I'm saying is and I love Claude, great guy, terrific super hockey player. But what happened was he'd had a window to show what he could do. The window had closed. He's not McDavid. And so what happened was the talent hadn't caught up with him. There was a separation between the two. You have to be collective. Your team has to be together.
Yeah.
And when you roll off 4 lines, they got to be like Florida is right now. Like Dallas had been during the year. Like Edmonton, how they beat Dallas. They played collective hockey. The Flyers weren't that team. They had some good pieces, but they had no depth. And they had no D, and they had very average goaltending. And that's why they're in where they're in. And that's why I'm saying if you did what you did and you had the balls, because I'm going to say this, I think the GMs here kept fucking guys like Drew around. I'm not saying Danny, the guy before, for their own benefit. Oh, let's get to the playoffs. I'll keep my
Exactly.
job. The hard move is to say, I'm going to do what the fucking right thing is for this franchise. Not for me, not for the Flair. And sometimes the hard move is to go backwards for a bit if you know you're going to go forward.
And I think they're going to go backwards this year or this coming season from where they were last season, and that's okay. And they can do that by having a lot of Look, they have a lot of draft picks, right?
They do.
They got 2 firsts and 2 seconds this year and next year, and they're going to clear out a lot of dead money, and they can do all that while keeping this player. Like, to me, moving off from who is currently your best player in Konecny, your best offensive player, moving off from him now only sets you further back in the rebuild. That's what I'm trying to say to you.
So
It's like if you keep him, you're going to take the step back no matter what, and he can still be part of it as you get better going forward.
I think you had 3 things, maybe 4 last year, that prevented you from being a bottom of the league team. John Tortorella, Travis Konecny, what you perceive to be a healthy Sean Couturier, and Carter Hart last year.
You said his name.
I did. I didn't say redacted this time. Those were the 4 guys going into last season that I think we all agreed those guys are going to prevent this from being a total shit show, like a total bottom 3 team in the league. Okay, Carter Hart's gone. We think that Sam Ersson can be a good number 1 goalie, and we don't know what Fedotov is going to be, but like I don't think we feel the same way about the goaltending situation as we did last year,
No.
with it being as strong. So that's kind of gone. Sean Couturier, we saw if you're going to play him the kind of minutes that he was played, there is a good chance that you are going to have at least a lapse in the season where he's not going to look like the same guy. Torts is still here. He's still going to try to squeeze out every point that this team can get. So if Konecny then is the one variable that you actively could move, that I think is why you're going to see more people talking about it. And just for the record, the one thing that I'm looking at here isn't to try to tear it down to the studs. I'm looking at it as you need to actively, when you can, remove the variables that are going to stop you from being a team that can get that top pick. You have 2 firsts this year, which is great, 2 seconds, which is great. If you can turn Travis Konecny into another young player, say it's a change of scenery guy like Owen Tippett was, who you think could end up becoming something, another pick or 2 picks, you don't have to make those picks next year or the year after. You can always parlay those a year from now to go out and get another guy who needs a change of scenery from another team, or a situation like this where there's a team that says, I don't know, based on where we are, don't know if I want to give that guy 10 million, 11 million, 12 million in the new cap situation. And you say, you know what, well then here, we have draft capital. We have another young guy that maybe is a change of scenery. And you go get a guy who ultimately might even be better than Travis Konecny. That's where I'm at.
And that's fine, Russ, but the point is that you're going to still be in the same spot next year. So let's say you trade Travis Konecny this summer. Let's say you did it. Yeah, we're not going to give him a new deal. We're going to trade him. We're going to take those assets. Mm-hmm. And we're sitting here at Pennsylvania Recovery Center next year on the 1-year anniversary of the goal.
Okay, recovering from season.
Yes, all right. and the Flyers are in the same spot. And Russ Joy is saying, you know what? They got to get out from that Owen Tippett contract because this team's not going to be good by the time that contract ends.
He's young.
But not that young.
He's a few years younger.
How young is he?
He's a few years younger.
Are we going to have the same...
He's 26? We did this with Ryan, wasn't Reinhardt?
Yeah, Reinhardt and Konecny.
2-3 years younger?
Yeah. So, I mean, but this is my point. So then you're going to be right back in the same boat again, where it's like, well, there's a contract they can get rid of, and you can get assets and go out and maybe get that player. You're in a it's a spin cycle that you're stuck in.
Potentially.
Well, you don't want that.
Maybe.
You want to try and get to the next step. And then if you realize you can't get to that next step, then you say, okay, now you got to pull the plug. And where I think Bundy is right is, with Giroux, is they let it go too long. Mm-hmm. But I do think there were people who wanted to pull the plug too soon with him, and they let it go too long. Now, to their credit, they got a good return for Giroux.
They did.
They got a good return for Giroux. Yeah. To their credit. So I think that what you have to do is you have to be able to identify when that time is. And I don't think that time is right now with Travis Konecny. It's just not.
Okay.
That's all.
We shall see.
I actually tend to agree. They're going to sign him. And again, where they go with that, it all depends. But he'll have a no movement if he wants it. I mean, you get what you want.
Everybody gets no movement.
Everybody does now. Yeah, I know. It's not like it used to be. But no, I mean, there's a lot of things coming in. And then again, we'll get there, but it's less than a month. But free agency is right around the corner too, and that's gonna be really interesting, really to see where they're at with that.
Well, yeah, I don't think they're gonna do anything real of any value. But what I think the interesting thing is going to be is wait till you see the contracts some guys get.
It's going to be bad. It's going to be exactly what happened in the NBA, where you're going to look at it, and role players are going to be getting what star players had been getting. Star players are going to get exorbitant amounts that you're going to say, hey, relative to the best players in the league, that's not fair, that's not right. It's absolutely going to happen. The one thing that maybe is the variable, and let's throw this out there to the people as well, do you fundamentally think that the Flyers change their off-season direction? Let's say that ahead of the draft, it gets announced, Matvei Michkov will be here this season. And now he'll be here the whole year. Does that change the way that they approach the draft and approach free agency?
No.
You don't think so?
No. Well, the draft is the draft, right? I mean, you're drafting players that aren't going to play for 4 years. Mm-hmm. They don't have, other than, and I'm not even certain Celebrini is going to play this year in the NHL. I mean, that's how developmental this draft is. I'm not convinced that he's coming straight to the NHL and he's going to be the number one overall pick. Right? So I think you're looking at guys that are 3 years away, at least, if not 4.
Okay.
So you're not changing your draft strategy just because Mishkov's here.
Yeah.
And as for free agency, you don't have the money because of the cap situation you're in.
Sure.
So that doesn't change. Could it change next year's approach? Could it expedite the overall plan? Yeah. That could change, but I don't think it changes 2024 at all.
Okay. What else do you guys want to get to before we...
Well, we had a couple draft questions, right?
Were there? Up top? What are you still trying to pull up? Are you still trying to pull up, the highest paid wingers?
No,
what are you looking at?
I'm just pulling...
We are in Center City, so I want to help you guys break this down
stuff
after so we can get you out of here in a nice, formal, orderly fashion.
Oh, that's right. I have everybody parked in.
Yeah, I know.
All right. What do you want to go to, Ant? What was...
No, there were people that were asking about the draft and, what the Flyers might look to do.
Well, we can always do it next week, because next week's show is going to be...
Are you here next week?
Yes and no.
Yeah, yes and no? When do you leave?
I can't say... Well, I don't want to say that publicly.
You don't want people to know when you're going on vacation?
No, you're not supposed to do that. It's like a safety thing.
I didn't ask you where you're going and what the address is of the place you're staying.
Well, it's clear that I'm not going to be home when I go on vacation.
Cavalcante's housewarming.
That's right.
You think people know where your house is?
I'll be around next week. Next week I will still be here. So we can dive into the... Let's do a little bit of additional research. Let's do the draft next week.
All right, fine.
And then I will even take my equipment with me to Outer Banks. And I'll be ready.
Now people know where you're going.
I told her. I'm pretty sure I've said that.
So now they're going to come. Now you're going to have people come find you in the Outer Banks.
Why are they going to find me in the Outer Banks? They're going to throw me in the ocean?
It's about the docks for us.
I might want them to throw you into the ocean.
Then you won't have an officiant for your wedding.
Bundy, what are you doing on the 21st?
We could actually catch up shark with Russ's bait.
Stop. Stop.
And there's enough sharks out there too. Actually, we could beach lure you. From what I'm hearing these days.
I don't know how to feel about you guys anymore. All right.
So anyway. Then we'll wait. We'll wait for the draft stuff.
Yeah, let's do it next week.
We'll do another one.
All right.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you.
I see a lot of people
down.
saying that they're also going to be in Outer Banks, so you can hit me up on Twitter and let me know. It'd be fun. How fun would that be?
Well, you remember if
for the draft, if there were a bunch of people who are actually in Outer Banks who are Flyers fans, that would actually be fun to meet up with those people on draft night.
It was kind of like when I was in Cleveland and met up with the Snow the Goalie fan.
Yeah.
And in Pittsburgh, 2 years in a row, the same guy, and it was completely unplanned.
So hit me up on Twitter or email snowthegoalie@gmail.com if you're going to be down in the Outer Banks during the draft. That'd be fun.
Great.
That'd
Yeah,
be a fun thing.
listen, if you guys get a show, I'll be there. I just, I missed a couple of them there. I didn't want to come on and talk about Mishkov. Like, Anthony's really dialed into that stuff, and I'm not. I actually, this year, because of my son playing, have a couple nuggets on some players in the draft, but that'd be interesting, and I mean, it shows you really where it's going, right? If the Celebrini kid may not even play his first year in the NHL as a number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, it's a good draft up till about 15, and like as far as NHL caliber players, but you're not talking about game-changing type players, at least not yet. They might develop into it, but
The nice thing is,
not right off the
it seems like every year, except for there are only a few years that I can think of where there really hasn't been a star player that's come out, even on some of the drafts where that have been kind of panned. Wouldn't it be something if they're picking at 12? Wouldn't it be something if somehow they ended up getting one of the guys that ends up being a significantly better player than anybody expects going into the draft?
Yeah.
You need that kind of luck every once in a while if you're going to be a cup contender.
The Line smoke.
He wants out of Columbus.
He ain't
Who
coming
doesn't?
I can't imagine that's
Isn't that-
efficient.
Imagine he wants
Isn't
to
Colum-
reunite with Torts.
I was gonna say, well, isn't Columbus where Ivan Provorov famously said that it's great to be able to play with creativity and
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
that had to be one of the dumbest comments
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
Especially before you've even played a game.
not great.
Before we wrap it up here, Bundy, it's been a great time. Thanks to everybody here at Pennsylvania Recovery Center for having us here. Russ had mentioned, and you said we'll get to it, but there's a lot of good news in the Therien family this past couple weeks. I was like, man, Facebook has been blowing up with good news. Why don't you share?
Well, you know what? Now that I am here, it's been a great month. So today is special for me getting to open this place right here off of Vine Street, and being able to kind of have a place now where people can come and say, wow. We had a great little setup at the row home down in Fishtown. It was a great starter pack, but this is really the real deal, and we're thrilled about it. Secondly, my daughter got engaged 2 weeks ago. Isabella, my oldest. It was like 3 weeks ago that I was just holding her in my arms when she was a baby. So she's got engaged to her boyfriend. He's a starting right guard for the Indianapolis Colts, Will Fries, who is a Fries, French fries, just like that. And so they're going to get married in the next year. And then Chris has been hitting the football route. Like it was a really hard call, but I always tell people, like, if your kid's happy with something and you see an ability. And hockey was really messed up. Like when I saw kids starting to get changed in the backseat of cars during COVID, I'm like, this is not good. And so I said, you know what, buddy, let's. I really think you're gonna have an opportunity to play football, and he's just a machine. Like and now my daughter's boyfriend, he's a lineman.
Yep.
And there he's got a mentor there, and in Will, and he got an offer at Villanova last week, which we were just so thrilled. I mean, a full scholarship offer to go play football at one of the great universities, certainly in Philly, but in the country.
Yeah.
And it was a real honor. So from someone who came here, and 30 years ago, I came in 1994 on June 1st, and here I am now. What a ride it's been. And I say it because of the people in the community and the friends that I've met, the people on this podcast. This is home now, and it certainly feels like that after what I just went through the last couple of weeks.
That's
Awesome. Good
But,
stuff.
your daughter who just got engaged, if they choose to have kids, genetic jackpot.
Yeah.
I mean, just from an athletic standpoint,
Yeah.
I can't get any better.
Isabel's 6 foot and Will's like 6. I mean, that's like 6'7", 310. I told her, I said a long time ago, I said, they've been dating like 4 years. I said, listen, honey, if you have a problem with him, you're on your own.
And on that,
fantastic.
I think
On that.
it's time to go. All right. Big thank you to everybody who joined us live. A big thank you to everybody who listens after the fact in the podcast feed. Don't forget you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify, 5-star review, which we'll read on the show over on Apple Podcasts. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to the Snow The Goalie YouTube channel. We're going to do a bunch of interesting stuff over the summer. And we have that best of episode for the Press Row show that intern Andrew put together. So going to be some interesting stuff going on that channel over the coming weeks. So for Ant, for Bundy, congratulations on the opening of this center. I'm Russ. Thanks again for listening, watching Snow the Goalie, the only Flyers podcast. We'll talk to all of you very, very soon.